What was so special about 1979?
Personally?
Yep.
Okay, personally I'm going to say it was an opportunity. An opportunity for a guy that was starting dancing at 16 years old, and all of a sudden by the time I'm 20, I'm in a wonderful group. And not only is it the opportunity of being in a wonderful group, but as a rookie, I'm not just jumping on a plane for the first time and going to another spot in Canada. I'm traveling overseas. And how wonderful is that, the opportunity to do so. Travel overseas, and then the other opportunity. You get to Scotland and you're part of a youth festival and you're meeting people from all over the world. The audiences are receptive beyond belief. You're dancing for peers, other entertainers. But that's not all the opportunities. The cherry opportunity is then going to Ukraine. And what a golden opportunity that is to reconnect, coming from often the Ukrainian culture from there. It's just transplanted. And all of a sudden you get to Ukraine and the emotion of getting there. You could feel that coming through the earth into you. And then there's a dance opportunity, personally, right? You're getting to be with some of the best dancers in the world, and you're rubbing shoulders, and it's one-on-one tutelage. What a way to develop your dance skills, especially for someone like myself who started so late in life. And it's not just the dancers, too. It wasn't just the dancers. It was the musicians that were there, the music, the choir members, the professionalism, how superb of artists they all were. And here's this little smarkach rubbing shoulders with them. What an emotional gem.
And you won't forget it.
I will not forget that. I'm grateful for it forever.
Okay, so here's the deal. So each one of us has described our personal adventures with Rusalka and what's so special about 1979. And each one of us adds our little thread, to the bigger tapestry. So there's personal stories, and then there's stories of the group. And so for me, I started with Rusalka in 1974, and I left the group twice to play football. And so 1976 rolled around, and it was spring camp with the Bisons, and I was auditioning as trying out as a running back. Had a really good camp. Got what's called an honorable mention from the head coach, so I was set to go to come back in August to a Bison training camp. But we had Chicago and we had Milwaukee with Rusalka, so we did those trips, which were epic.
That was summer?
That was the summer of '76. We did the Olympics in Montreal, which is another show of its own. And while performing in Montreal, Nanad Watka had choreographed this dance where women would stand on my back with their heels grinding into my lower lumbar spine. And sure enough, my back started acting up. And I had the privilege of being treated in the Olympic Village treatment center. And I was one of the first people. They were just experimenting with this new thing called TENS machines. So that was brand new. So I was one of the first people to ever get a TENS machine treatment.
Is that good or bad?
It didn't work. But anyways, it was so cool because then I got to spend the day in the cafeteria in Olympic Village just eating for the whole day and watching athletes come in and out, the Olympic athletes. So that was pretty cool. But I digress. So the plan was after the Olympics that I was going to quit Rusalka again, go back to the Bisons, and have a really nice season in '76. But my back was screwed up. And so went to Bison Camp with my back screwed up. And it was probably the second week of pounding head on head with Glenn Leonhard, who then played with the BC Lions, because the theory was that they had the heaviest backs buddy up with the heaviest defensive linemen for hitting drills. So we were pounding on each other, me and Glenn Leonhard, for like 2 weeks straight, twice a day. And before the season even started, that was it. I had to pack it in. So the smart move at that point would have been to maybe take a year off from football and dancing, and try to recover. But no, so instead I danced. So I danced through the 76 show, the big December 5th show, on through the ballet, and on we went. So comes 1978. At that point in time, talking about the history of the group, it was run very efficiently by a board, which was a self-appointing board. It was Judge Ben Huak, Olek Romaniu, Kay Kuzik, and Roman Monastersky sat in sort of as a dancer rep. It worked. It worked really well. They did a magnificent job running the group, but there was no constitution, there was no organization, there was no elections. That's just the way things were. And so that's a theme I'm going to get to, because things somehow changed over the summer of 1979. 78, we did Dancing in the Park, which was tremendous. We had auditions in the fall because we were going on this trip, so we added some really quality people. Some people retired. We did a really fun CBC show called Feast of the Kolyada. We did a really fun workshop in Gimli in June. And then, of course, the trip. And the trip was epic. So when we got back, and of course, during the trip, not only did I have my back shot, my knees started to go, and I completely shredded a hamstring working with Videoka before we did the shows in Lviv and Ternopil. So I was pretty well staggering by the fall of 79. We did the show, and Roman stepped down, so I became the dancer rep for the group. So come February of 1980, I said, this is it. Stuff hurts too much. It's time to quit. And I thought that was the end. I thought that was finito for Rusalka. To my surprise and honored, Ben Early said, no, you're on the board. I was like, oh, okay. So bingo, I was on the board. But here's the difference, is that it didn't have so much, I don't think, to do with me personally, but something had changed in the group between 78 and 79, that there was this new feeling of, well, we're big league now. Maybe we should have a constitution. Maybe we should have elections. Maybe we should be like a formal organization. And Ben and Oli were okay with that. I think they were at the point where they saw that, yeah, things have sort of developed. Maybe we need to formalize. So that sort of moment when I was sort of appointed to the board, some of the dancers went, well, wait a minute, like, shouldn't we have elections? And so one of the first things we did when I joined the board is that we worked on a constitution, and we started democratizing the organization. So I think something really changed for the group.
And that was okay with the handful that had originally just been the nucleus
Exactly.
of the leadership.
I think Ben and Oli both recognized that it was time. It was time to evolve. So that was my story, and that was the story. So yes, I thought I was out. You think you're out, but then they drag you back in. So that's my story and the story of Rusalka. One of the things that was a bit of a, disappointment, but a surprise, is that we did get some flack, particularly from the Ukrainian community in Winnipeg, that by going there we were somehow condoning the Soviet regime or supporting the Soviet regime. Did you experience that, or did your parents experience any of that?
Oh yes, I think when this came out that we were going, my parents, they had people calling them, people approaching them, colleagues, friends, anybody in the community that knew that I was involved in. And the first question, is she going on that communist tour? And that was one of the things that they asked.
Oh really? Okay.
The communist tour.
Yeah.
They're going off to the Soviet Union, and it was kind of like, well, how do you answer that? Truthfully or otherwise. But yeah, there was quite a bit of conversation, quite a bit of, actually more so than conversation, about how could you allow your child to go? How could you, be in favor of all this? this. And I wasn't aware of a lot of it, but
Right.
it did happen. I knew a little bit of it, but I think for the most part it wasn't shared with me because I think they wanted me to have the experience that I was supposed to have, as opposed to it being tainted. You know, of course, you're always being cautious, you're being apprehensive, and I mean, you know, it was always told to me.
We're not naive.
But be careful where you go. Be careful who you talk to. You know,
Yeah.
and be careful. Be careful. Be careful. You can say that 100 times, but what are you being careful of? We don't even know what we're being careful
Yeah, yeah.
of. But yes, absolutely. And then after it was all over, you know, there was some, you know, sort
Still.
of follow up.
Yeah.
It's like, so how was it? Well, it was absolutely a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
Everything, you know, could not have worked out better. But and again, an experience that will never be repeated.
Right.
It's never, you know, something that will never be repeated.
And the haters were still haters. I mean, some of that action was sour grapes, but whatever.
It was, you know, like, because this was something that, you know, we, and as I say, there was a unique number of us and a unique experience, and no one else can experience what we did for the first time. Beyond that, there have been many tours by many groups, and everyone's unique, but they weren't the first. And now, you know, and immediately after, we could share our experience. The next group that went, they'd ask, well, what about this, that, and the other?
Yeah.
We could tell them, well, this may not.
Yeah. Every detail, yeah.
Every detail, best you can. But ours was the first.
In dealing with the criticism when we got back, I didn't really take it much to heart. I just accepted it that, well, there's going to be a segment of Ukrainians out there who, you know, who are going to levy that kind of criticism on the group. I was upset about it, but I didn't really take it to heart. What I really kind of felt for was my parents, because they were getting all kinds of telephone calls.
Oh, jeez.
From you know,
Yeah.
from friends of theirs,
Yeah.
criticizing us for going out, criticizing my parents for letting us go.
Wow.
And you know, and do what we were doing. But I didn't feel bad. You know, I felt bad about that. And but I think my parents handled it pretty well. They were very supportive of us. And
But in the end, it was incredibly rewarding for us.
yeah.
It was rewarding for the familia and the Ukrainians there that we gave them a spark of life.
Yeah, my cousin, again, the one that was interested in the songbook, took me off to the side and told me, and I think this was when we were performing in Ternopil, because they were part of the audience there, which was
Yeah.
shocking to us.
Yeah.
Actually, just a little bit off topic here, but that was probably the worst performance on my part that I ever did. Because I was so mesmerized by the fact that there's my Guido, my cousins, and my aunts sitting there in the audience, and I totally lost track of what the hell I was doing on stage. Like, I remember one dance, I practically forgot half of the dance.
Yeah.
I was so ashamed of myself at the end of the performances. Anyways, I think it was maybe after the performance, he came to me and said, you know, you have no idea what your visit, meaning like not only from the family perspective, but from the perspective of the group, coming here and
Give them hope.
performing for us.
Probably gave them hope. Yeah. Yeah.
They had no idea. They had no idea how strong culturally and socially the diaspora was.
They would have no clue.
You know,
Yeah.
they had no clue at all. So for them to realize that, oh my God, these are like first, second, third generation Ukrainian Canadians.
Yeah.
Speaking Ukrainian.
Some of them can
Quite a
speak.
few.
Yeah,
Some of us can
yeah,
speak
yeah.
Ukrainian, and performing Ukrainian dances on stage.
Traditional dances. Yeah.
They were totally blown away by that.
Okay.
And you know, yes. So for them, it was like they knew that they weren't alone
Yeah.
in their struggle for
Bingo.
independence.
Thank you. That's. So when we went to Ukraine, for the most part, we were very excited to go, and we thought that the community would be very excited to have us go. And I was really kind of shocked and surprised at some of the grief that we got from the Ukrainian community. One fellow in particular, a former lawyer, initials MM, would call me, and we'd have these half-hour, 45-minute conversations about, this is Stedno, that we're supporting the Soviet regime, that we're condoning the whole thing. But in the end, that was garbage, because what we felt when we went there is we were doing two things. We were seeing some Jvavis. We were seeing that Ukraine was not dead, that the artists cared about Ukraine, and they saw that we cared and that we had preserved Ukrainian culture. We'd freeze-dried it from 1917, and we're holding it as a gift and bringing it back to you. So in the end, obviously, I think it was an incredible positive, and anybody that gave us a hard time, and there were people that gave us a hard time, was just, I think, jealousy. Sour grapes are just studenetstvo. What do you remember about the warm-up camp we had in Gimli before we went on a trip?
My lasting impression is certainly different than my impression while we were there.
Okay.
When we started, it was going to be your typical going to the lake, whether it was
Camp
Rusalka
Yeah.
or wherever, and just everybody
Playing
bring
spoons,
libations
yeah.
and games, and we were just going to have a ball.
Yeah.
And after the first night, I think it was a Friday night, was the first night.
Okay.
And it became very soberingly obvious that there's no way that we'll have a show ready when we land in Scotland.
Yeah.
We had these high ambitions of 2 long, very complex halves to the show.
Yeah.
Some very balletic. Some of the numbers didn't look like they were even gonna. They would just have to be cut.
Yeah, it was all dancing. I mean, we had to do Vamera doing a little bit of filler, but it was a lot of dancing.
And the chorus, you just couldn't do it. But it was interesting, I think in one of your segments you talked about a feeling of the group changing and evolving, and I think you had talked about the politics a little bit, and this is more maturing as a flavor for how the dancers wanted the group to be professionally. We had Irka Balan and Peter Paulishin, who were kind of standard dancers at the time, but they had gone to all the camps in New York. So they were bringing this rigid discipline on the floor that we weren't really seeing on Thursday nights. but they had sort of taken the bull by the horn and said, this is what's going to happen. You had Miran Tereshuk, you had Ore Shaluchak, and you had other senior members who were whipping the young people into shape. But as opposed to rookies, they were treating them like fellow dancers who had to come up. Very different. And by the Saturday and the Sunday, you were noticing that it was no longer, that's the weak link, and I wish he or she could pull their socks up. The best dancers were spending time with them, saying, don't worry about it, just let's keep working together and all of us will rise. And by the end of that weekend, sort of left feeling that something is really shifting and in a positive direction and a much more professional direction.
Yeah. It's a group, it's not prima donnas, it's a group.
And there always will be those, but at that time it was, this is for fun, it's what I do Tuesdays and Thursdays so I can meet with my friends on the weekend, and it became much more than that from an artistic sense. So that's my recollection, and other people will remember antics and things from that weekend, but as I look back to it, that was almost a changing of the tide in Rusalka. It was also happening in Shunka and other places where there was, if guys can be dancing at the Radio City Music Hall, why can't we be dancing on the best stages in Europe and Japan?
Right.
And to do that, you've got to be better.
Yeah.
And so that's my recollection of that as almost being a sort of a turning point.
Like one thing that comes to mind, when we came back, I'm pretty sure it was that fall. There was talk of us going to Vegas.
Oh yeah, and it even perpetuated more in the early 80s about doing that.
Okay, this is about Gimli Dance Camp.
So in the evening, it was dark, and there was a hill in the campsite. So we decided to play like charades. So we had to guess if it was a movie. You know, Jaws was really big then. And then Merv, who is this quiet young man from Dauphin. Nobody knew him except Bill Chipluk would say, no, we got to get to know him. So that's when Merv the Count was born. Because he would come up the hill, one, two, and that was the birth of Merv the Count.
Greetings. I am the Count. Do you know why they call me the Count? Because I love to count things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
This is Gimli Dance Camp. So we're at Gimli Dance Camp, and a couple remember. But this first one was, it was really hot. It was either May, June. It was steaming hot, and we were doing Teresunats. And at one point, Evelyn Piyush walked over to me and handed me this because she was tired of getting her face sprayed.
The head whips.
with the head whips. So I still have this. This is a gift from Evelyn Piyush from Gimli Dance Camp. Okay, story number 2, Gimli Dance Camp. Okay, so after singing The Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music and doing a number of musicals outdoors, it was finally time to go to bed. And we had bunk beds. And so I was climbing up into the upper bunk, and all of a sudden a hand reaches up, grabs my gotch, and starts pulling them off. And I go, no, like, what are you doing? And I said something like, have you been drinking lemon gin? Because lemon gin is notoriously a panty remover. And I had not been drinking lemon gin. And all I heard from downstairs was, Janne Pjell lemon gin.
Janne Pjell lemon gin.
Remember anything about that Gimli weekend?
You know what popped into my mind? I could see him like it was yesterday. Petro.
Publisher. Yeah.
That's what stands out for the Gimli.
Okay.
How, but that's that's what really stands out is his presence.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I thought, what a lovely gift to remember him.
And any thoughts about our Gimli pre-trip camp?
Oh, that was an experience. That's something that we hadn't had for a long time. I think
Yeah.
one other time we had a weekend sort of serious camp, but this was actually right away from our home, even though it was just Gimli, but still it was far away from, you know, being able to, you know, go into our own fridge and our own bedroom and, you know, onto our own phones. Because at that point, of course, we didn't carry cell phones. We had no communication. So off we were in Gimli. It was great. The people who organized it, of course, our dance instructors and everybody else that provided for us and made sure that we were well fed, well looked after, and had, you know, the appropriate accommodations. It provided us the best opportunity we could possibly ever have to gel as a group.
Right.
The team building experience.
A rehearsal for being on the road, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just here we were, and here we were going to spend, you know, these 2.5, 3 days together, gelled with no nothing else, nobody else we could contact or kind of like go off and do shopping or anything else. We were together, and that actually solidified the fact that we were ready to go on this tour, because we had to very much rely on each other for emotional support. We had to rely on each other for, you know, anything that, you know, one person may have forgot or didn't have, or somebody else looking after each other. We had to rely on each other. And we knew after that weekend that, yeah, we would look after each other.
This is the one, the only Tom Brick. Tom and I played together in a very famous band in the 70s called Betso Canary. So we have one really good gig. We performed on national TV. On Canada Day at Sylvan Park, it was like 1977 or 1978, and we never got another gig after that.
All right, I want to introduce you to my brothers here. Taras Romaniuk, Paul Romaniuk, Andrei Romaniuk, Nick Romaniuk. You know, you're a lovely audience. We'd love to take you home with us, but we got one question. Me and my brothers got one question for all you creeds up there. Do you want to dance under the moonlight?